Oh, very big fish.
Yes, we got a hog. That's a biggie. That's Mo. Mo Bigsley. It's Ike.
Whoa.
Take your time.
Oh.
Okay. Well, now. Okay.
So, what are we gonna do about
you bring
this?
the grenade.
This is steelhead fishing at its finest, a huge native fish hooked up and full of fight, taking a pair of anglers on a merry chase, with the outcome riding on every twist and turn of this giant silver bullet. Even these two grizzled veterans of thousands of steelhead battles are on edge. They know this magnificent prize of their passion is far from won.
This is what these Peninsula rivers are known for, man, these great big bucks. Ah! Well, that's a...
Man.
Did you see that tail? Brother McCree! If he loves the boat, we're finished!
A steelhead approaching 20 pounds is a once-in-a-lifetime trophy for most who will take up this piscatorial challenge. Though the record stands at over 40, 5 to 15-pound fish are what can reasonably be anticipated if you choose to take up steelheading.
Taking this thing to the rapids.
It is only fair to warn you, steelheading can become an addiction. It has put kids in hot water with their parents, separated teenagers from their peer groups, and preoccupied adults to the point where they are useless for much else. Our pair of anglers, Nick Amato and Bill Herzog, could legitimately fall into all of these categories. And this is lucky for us. They're just the duo to get you started steelhead drift fishing. Nick Amato is the editor of Salmon, Trout, and Steelhead magazine, one of his family's many publications on angling. All he does is fish, talk fishing, and write about it. Bill Herzog is a Northwesterner who had to go outside his family to discover the keys to steelhead drift fishing.
Get you some angle this way, Griffin, that tree.
He learned the sport on his own, devouring the available literature and putting his hard-won knowledge into practice. His book, Steelhead Drift Fishing, is a definitive source on the subject and is an exceptional companion to this video. Together, Nick and Bill will give us the details on how to drift fish for steelhead. This is not the only technique that works, but it is arguably the most effective.
Well, you might not have an option, you might not.
Can we try to just tire them out here?
Let's see if our dynamic duo can land this lunker, and then we'll get on with the lesson. We'll take you to a number of locations, help you read the water, learn the gear, and instruct you in a variety of drift fishing techniques that should help you become a competent steelhead angler.
I want his head up and I want him laying. What a hog, Nick. Let him drift down to me, my man. 'Cause when I touch him, he may take off again. Oh. 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 Oh.
Kind of put his head in the nose if you can. If you can. Now, remember, this fish is still so...
God, it's so hard without a beach and a fish this big. This is hard, man. This is tough spot. Oh my God. That Nick Amato!
Oh my goodness, how big is that?
About 18, 17, 18. Look at that beautiful fish. Huge, beautiful chrome native. Oh, buddy. Look at that gorgeous fish. Holy smokes. That fish is, man, that could be a 20.
I don't know.
But he's awful. You'd have to girth him, and he's got a big girth.
Woohoo! Yeah!
You the man!
Right on!
That's why they put you in charge. Oh man,
oh,
alive.
that is one of the biggest steelhead I've ever
Take the
caught,
cut out of
I
him.
think.
Take the hook out of him. I'm estimating this fish at about 18 pounds. Look at that, Nick. Oh, look at you. Nice job, man. What do you say we put him back and let him make more? Look just like him. Big Peninsula steelhead, look at that. Big male, probably 35, 36 inches long, about 18-inch girth. And there he goes.
Our setting is the Olympic Peninsula of Washington, but it doesn't matter if you're in the Northwest, Midwest, or even Canada. Steelhead will respond to the techniques put forth here. You won't have to catch everything in the video the first time around. We'll be a bit repetitive, showing you some of the same information and how it applies to different types of rivers and fishing conditions. This is recreation, not work, so sit back, watch, learn, and enjoy.
Welcome to Amato Publications Drift Fishing for Steelhead. I'm Bill Herzog and I'm here with salmon trout steelheader editor Nick Amato. We're going to visit some of the Northwest premier steelhead rivers. We're going to show you how to read water, we're going to show you the best techniques, and we're going to have a good time, Nick.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. We're in an absolute beautiful spot right now. Look at the water down there.
We're going to talk about rods, reels, terminal gear, baits, lines, all the important things, but those don't mean anything if you don't know where to find the fish in the stream.
Well, we're looking at some really nice water right here, and how would you approach this, Bill?
Well, if I was going to start fishing here, Nick, I would try to avoid the real fast water at the top, because steelhead basically, they're lazy creatures. They're not going to expend a lot of energy. They have to use that energy for spawning. They're going to be not in the fast stuff up on top where it's hard to swim, and they're not going to be way down the tail out where it's clear and they can see, you know? They're going to be somewhere in between where they feel comfortable, where the water's just about walking speed. Someplace they feel comfortable, you know, like right there in the middle of the pool where they see that little white chop in the middle, where it's maybe 3 to 5 feet deep, 3 to 6 feet deep.
That makes them feel comfortable, right?
It certainly does, and that's where we're going to find our fish.
If I'm going to fish a piece of water, Bill, I usually start at the top end and then slowly work my way through it, all the way to the tail out, you know, depending on the water condition and the way that the pool's set up.
So what you're going to do is you're going to start at the top end of the run, slightly above where you think the first fish might be laying, and then systematically work your way down through the pool until you get to the end of the holding water. True, so you don't miss any fish in between.
Exactly.
Well, we've taken a look at this beautiful piece of water here. We should take a look upstream here and find some more examples of some steelhead water. Let's take a squint. Wow. Nick, look at all this beautiful water up here, man.
Incredible.
Now, the first thing I see here is a split.
Right, and in medium to smaller rivers, steelhead like to hang below and above splits, especially if there's nice holding water.
Well, what I see here is I see 3 beautiful flat spots. Now remember, to find fish, you got to find the flat spots in the holding water. Wherever the river stops tilting and flattens out, we got one here, one there, and one up above there at the junction pool. The beautiful flats, that's where they're going to stop and hold. Wherever we got the nice chop, right below the head end up here, we got a flat, and a flat right here.
I agree, Bill, and especially with the spot at the top of the island. The fish come around either side, and then they'll go up into that flat spot and hold and rest. All this beautiful water is making me want to fish. Let's put on our waders and go fishing.
I agree completely, man. Let's do it.
There are some places you won't find steelhead, so eliminate them from your possible fishing locations. They won't waste valuable energy fighting heavy water, waterfalls, steep chutes, and quick-moving shallow runs. All these can be ignored. You also won't find steelhead where you have a sandy or muddy bottom. Dirt and fish gills don't mix, and steelhead will avoid such areas if they have a choice. Gravel, rocks, and boulders are the preferred structure for steelhead to hold over and around. Something that breaks the current, like a big stone or even a submerged tree. This provides both a place for fish to rest and protection from the sun and predators. The ideal current speed should be about that of a normal walking pace. What is tricky is that the current at the surface may be quite different from what it is at depth. Extremely shallow water makes steelhead vulnerable, and you need at least 3 feet of depth to provide them some level of comfort. The deeper, calmer portion of the river is often the best, while the stagnant water is not productive at all. What are some of the best types of holding water? Riffles are one such area. This is where the fast water starts to slow down. Often, this is right after a rapids, falls, or chute. The water is choppy, providing overhead cover, and the bottom is often rocky, causing the bumpy surface. Pools can follow riffles and are the deepest form of holding water, with a surface that often swirls and alternates between slicks and boils. Pools are not still, but have sufficient flow to suspend fish and enough depth to provide cover. Tailouts are where the pool begins to turn back into river. Water depth shallow and the river widens, while the surface is often smooth and flat. Early and late in the day, steelhead can be found in such areas. Breaking points are another spot where you can often find fish. This is just where the tailout ends and the river begins to take another form, which might be rapids, falls, or even a deep chute. This is often a small, choppy zone that may provide the right water speed and submerged structure to make the perfect resting spot for steelhead. Oftentimes, you'll hear veteran steelheaders say they are looking for flat spots in the main flow of the river. What they are really seeking is a portion of the riverbed with sufficient depth and water speed that is tilted slightly up from the normal descending nature of the bottom. This allows them to hold in slightly faster current than you might anticipate. It is in such a spot where we'll catch up with our avid angling partners, Nick and Bill.
Hey, look at this piece of water, bro. What do you think?
It looks like good holding water. Looks like there's a slot out in there in the middle, and looks like an excellent place for steelhead to be hiding.
Well, there's only one thing to do in a situation like this. Fish!
Yeah, let's try it.
Let's hit it.
You may have heard that steelhead are the fish of 1,000 casts. In reality, it is a single cast with the right gear in the right place and at the right time that produces.
Oh yeah, looking good.
Fish on! Fish on!
There he is! Nick,
Fish on!
You got him, Nick! Holy cripes!
Can you believe that?
Yes, I do.
Jesus, one cast. I don't even know what I've got on here.
I believe it. You got a fish, my man. Holy smokes.
Oh man, I'm gonna have a heart attack.
Just be cool. Oh, he bit.
Is he cutting across, Bill? Can you tell through that other channel?
Just be cool. Just stand there and...
He's going across into that other channel around the rock, isn't he?
No, just be cool. I can't see. No, he's holding on this side.
Oh, there he is. He's up on that edge.
Oh my God. I just seen him turn. Put your ground. This is what can happen when you're steelhead fishing. Often your very first cast of the day. Boom! This is so exciting. Wow! Nick has a big fish on right now on his very first cast. Holy smokes.
This never happens. Ever.
You owe me big for first cast, by the way. Oh, baby!
I'm not going to be able to hold him in here.
Oh, you're fine. You can get him. Okay, come on down here and pull him this way. Come down here and pull him this way. Turn his head this way. Make him fight you this way. Atta boy. That's a beautiful steelhead, Nick. Look at that. He's gorgeous. Okay, one more pump and reel. Okay, you got a nice beach right here. You got a nice beach. Nice beach. Big buck, big beautiful buck. Man, this is a big beautiful native. It's a gorgeous native. He's got a little bit of color. Got all of his fins. Big
I'm gonna
March
drive him
native.
right up on the beach, Bill. It's all we can do. We don't have a net or anything.
You got it. We just beach him right here. We got a nice beach.
He's not. Oh, there he goes.
Oh!
Oh, we just about had him.
Just about had about an 18 to 20 pound steelhead.
Just pulled the hook loose, but beautiful fish. Woo! Man.
Steelhead fishing, what can you say? Oh my God. Smoke him if you got him. Woo!
Oh.
Steelhead are a migratory rainbow trout that are spawned in our rivers and after an average of 2 years head to the ocean. Hatchery steelhead may take less than a year to reach their smolt stage and like their wild cousins forge their way downriver and head to the ocean or Great Lake where they will grow to maturity. Most steelhead spend 2 to 3 years in the salt feeding and forming into the streamlined silver bullets we'd love to catch. A few remain longer at the feed trough, and it is these specimens that stay out for 4 or 5 years that become the trophies of our dreams. Upon returning to their home river, steelhead immediately start to change appearance. They slowly lose their bright metallic sheen and take on a duller rainbow trout-like color. There are both winter and summer runs of steelhead. Generally, winter fish return November through March, while the summers come home between May and September. Both spawn in February or March. Unlike salmon, steelhead can return to the ocean after spawning, but only a little over 10% manage to repeat the entire reproductive ritual.
Before we were so rudely interrupted by my partner's big steelhead there, I was going to talk about how we're going to work this water. I'm going to get close enough to it. I want to position myself so I'm not too close to my target water that might spook my quarry, but I'm not so far away that I can't reach it and make a good presentation and be in control. I want to start my first cast up here at the very beginning of the run where I think the first fish might be, and then I'm going to take about 4 or 5 steps in between casts. I'm going to work my way down, make the same distance throw as I go. Let me show you.
By beginning high, you will also avoid running your line over a fish and spooking them.
I'm going to bring up all my
You'll have to adjust the angle of your cast and the amount of weight you're using to make sure your rig is bouncing just off the bottom, exactly where you think the fish are.
As it goes along, I'm just feeding it to extend my drift, to work a little bit more water. And when I get to the end, I'm going to take a few steps down now. I'm going to make the same length of cast again to kind of overlap the water I just threw to.
The murkier the water, the less you want to increase the distance between your casts.
It's just gliding along. It's ticking the bottom. My weight is ticking bottom like every 10 feet. I've just got it down there close enough so they can see it. And so I'm not banging bottom.
A good rule is to increase the length of your cast by the amount of visibility in the water.
Steelhead can't look down. They can only look straight out and look up. If I'm keeping my bait gliding along at his eye level, where he can see it, he can take it much easier, see it easier, move forward easier. He'll even come up for it a couple of feet, but it's very difficult for a fish to turn his body and take a bait or a drift bobber that's rolling along the bottom. And plus it looks unnatural.
In the standard swing presentation, you are trying to keep your bait and or drift bobber just off the bottom and moving slightly slower than the current speed.
Pick up all my slack, glide it downstream, right through the holding water.
To do this, you have to follow your bait and wait with the rod tip, keeping your rig from being swept up off the bottom and out of the strike zone.
I'm just extending my drift as it goes to keep it in contact with the bottom and slightly above it.
At the end of your drift is where most strikes will occur as your presentation slows and the bait swings below your weight.
Which is another thing. If you think you have a bite, set the hook. It doesn't hurt. A lot of times the steelhead don't always just grab it and jerk it down. They just stop it and mouth it. If you think something feels unusual, set the hook. There's an old saying, jerk or be one. Bring it back, do it again.
There are two styles of drift fishing rods and reels commonly used. Some prefer a bait casting rod and reel, while others like a spin outfit. Both have their pros and cons.
Bill has a casting rod and I'm using a spinning rod. And the main difference is that you can use a lighter sinker and make a lighter presentation. Use thinner diameter lines. And some people just like to use spinning reels.
Let's talk a little bit about line weights. I like to use a level one, and when you use a level wind reel, you can use a little heavier pound tests because it comes straight off the reel. It doesn't come off in coils like on a spinning reel. I can use anything comfortably from 10 to 20 pound tests with a level wind. Nick, on the other hand, who uses a spinning reel, he can use 6 lighter pound tests like 6 and 8. And let's watch him make a throw.
Regardless of the method you choose, your rod should have some common characteristics. It should be about 8.5 to 9 feet in length, enough to allow you to keep your line off the water and control your drift. The tip should be somewhat sensitive so that you can feel what is going on with your rig. And it should have a strong butt section to allow you plenty of power when it comes to fighting that big fish.
I like to use 8 to 12 pound test fluorocarbon leaders. 8 pound test when the water's real low and clear and the fish aren't that big. Now I'll go to 10 or 12 pound test in bigger water when I know there are big fish around and there's heavy structure and logs and things like that, so that I can at least have a chance at landing a trophy.
Notice today we have some pretty clear water conditions. It's important when the water's clear like this to get separation from your weight to your hook or your drift bobber and your bait. You want that separation because if the fish see the weight looks something like unnatural coming down at them, you want them to see the bait first and not see the weight at all. And so it's important when the water's clear to use a longer leader. When the water has color, it's not as important because you shrink the attraction area. But when the water's clear, it's important to have a leader at least 3 feet long.
There are about as many baits and drift bobbers as there are places to fish them, but we'll look at just a few. Roe or fish eggs are the most popular bait. In the Northwest, a close second are sand shrimp, or ghost shrimp as they are called. Night crawlers and a variety of worms work well, as do shrimp, crawdads, grasshoppers, maggots, and other fly larvae.
Nick, show me how to rig the sand shrimp tail on your light tackle.
Sure, here's my favorite way to do it. If I have a large sand shrimp, I'll take the tail, pinch the tail off, or if it's a smaller shrimp, I'll thread the whole shrimp on. But what I do is take the hook like this, thread it through the tail, have it come out just below the tip of the tail.
Right below the fan?
Right below the fan, exactly. There I thread it up the line, like so, and then I take a plastic egg, and you can change the colors, but this cerise is a pretty good bet, and just thread that right onto the hook and slide it actually above the hook. And what that does is keeps the sand shrimp tail above the hook and allows you to fish it quite a few casts, and it also gives you a little bit of color. It's just a really nice setup. A fellow by the name of Paul Zlotek showed me how to do this, and we've had tremendous success with this setup.
As a matter of fact, I've had a few suggestions like that in the how-to tips in the magazine.
Hey Bill, show us how to put the eggs in the egg loop.
Oh, you betcha. And notice I have a drift bobber here, but often I want to put some roe on there to add a little smell and a little more profile. Here's what we do. We just open up the egg loop about the size of a 50-cent piece and hold it open. We take our roe, we run the hook through part of it like that. Take your egg loop, give it one twist, put it around the rest of the body of the roe, and snug it up. We don't want it too tight so it cuts through. Just snug it up so it holds on there like that. And that's how it should hang. And don't worry if the point of your hook sticks through. The fish don't know what the point of the hook is.
I always go to the river with pre-tied leaders. It's just invaluable.
Well, think of all the downtime that would save you. If you had to stop and tie each one of those leaders, each one, if you're even the best egg loop tire in the world. It's going to take you a full minute, 2 minutes to do each one. Look, you just saved yourself 15, 20 minutes that you could have a line in the water. You're going to catch more fish if you're prepared.
What is conventional to most drift fishing rigs is an egg loop for attaching your leader to the hook. It is a knot that requires a little practice, but it is necessary for keeping your bait on and in position to catch fish.
Okay, you take your hook and your leader material. Take the end of your leader material and feed it through the eye of your hook until you have 2 or 3 inches of tag end out the back. Pinch the tag end to the shank of the hook. Take the other end of the loose leader material and start a wrap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Hold that tight like that. That's the bumper portion of your knot. Pinch that bumper portion so it does not come loose. Take the other end of your leader material, feed it back through the eye, and pull your loop up snug until you have about that much to work with. Now carefully watch this. You take this loop and concentrate on the bottom part of the loop. You take that bottom part of the loop and wrap it around the shank. Keep your eye on the bottom part right there. 1, 2, 3. Notice it's the same piece of line I'm using to wrap. 4, 5. Now do not let it slip. Hold it tight there, and then take the end of your leader and snug it up until it's good and snug. This is what you'll have when you're done. There's your bumper. You got your line right there is your cushion for your knot, and that's your egg loop. That's where your bait, that's where your eggs, your roe, and your sand shrimp goes, right inside of there. You just want to snug that up, not pull it tight so it cuts through your bait. Put your bait inside of it.
Or yarn.
Or yarn. Pull it up tight. There's your egg loop. That's the one you'll be using for all your steelheading drift fishing situations.
The Solduck River we find ourselves on now is far different from the Quinault. This stream does not fall as rapidly, nor does it have the wide open runs. It will make reading the water more difficult, but the same principles apply.
Waiting for this, so we've got moving fish right now. We've got aggressive fish. We've got about 3.5 feet of visibility. Everything's perfect.
And that 3.5 visibility means the fish aren't going to be shy.
No, that means they'll be biting and they'll be aggressive. So when they see our baits, it's going to be lights out.
Well, let's go get them.
Let's do it.
Some call this the very best time to fish steelhead, just as high water is receding.
Right on.
You know, Nick, when we have water conditions like this and we have moving fish, especially down here in the lower portions of the rivers like we're fishing today, we could basically stand here all day long and wait for fish to come to us and just stand here and cast. But it's a much better idea to make a cast, take enough steps, like we have 4 feet of visibility today, move down 4 feet, make the same cast again, and go 4 to 5 feet in between your casts and give the pool a good working over. You always want to start at the top end of a pool. You want to make your first cast where you think you want to make your first cast above where you think the first fish might be laying. That way, when your rig drifts down to the fish, it doesn't go across him, you don't spook him, and he sees your bait first before he sees your lead and your weighting system. You always start high. That way you don't come across, you don't highlight. Never walk into the middle of a pool and cast randomly, because random casts, you're only going to catch the random fish. Always start at the top, methodically work your way down through the pool. Make a cast, make a good presentation, take 4 steps. Make another cast, make a good presentation, take 4 steps. That way you're working in a grid, working the whole pool, and if there is a fish there, he's going to see it, you're not going to pass him up.
Here's how I fish this rig. I'm going to go ahead and cast slightly upstream, allow it to hit, hold my rod high and keep the line off the water, let it sink down to the bottom, then reel down. I feel bottom right there, and I'm going to let it lightly swing across the bottom. And then it's also possible in a situation like this to extend your drift simply by opening the bail, letting a little more line out, and letting it drift further down.
Come on, fish. Come on, fish. We're always calling them. They don't always answer. We're always calling. Against the bank. There we go. It's important to pick up your slack. As soon as your line hits the water, get all your slack up. That keeps your lead from settling in the rocks and gives you instant feel. Another thing nice about a level wind reel is after I get down to a spot where the bait and lead would be picking up off the bottom, I can feed it like that for an extended drift, and I can keep it going and keep it going and keep it going until I feel I have too much line on, I'm out of control. But I can work twice as much water as a spinning reel can.
Okay, I've worked this over by drift fishing, and now I'm going to try side drifting from the bank. I'm just going to kind of drift fish my way down the run and kind of walk with the rigging. And sometimes it works real well. You get a nice smooth presentation and you can cover a lot of water. It's kind of like you're fishing out of a drift boat. As soon as my cast gets a little bit below me, past a 45-degree angle, I'll go ahead and retrieve and then cast back out at a 45-degree upstream angle, which will allow the rig to get down. Here we go, fish on!
Woo! Woo! Yeah, baby! Yeah! Woo! I hear ringing.
Just took real light at the end of the swing. They're in here.
Sweet. It's a chromer too, man. Being this low under of that fish is just hot.
You see that run it made?
Oh, it's running still, man. Woo!
Okay, I'm gonna try to turn it by taking pressure off.
It looks like a hen.
Yeah,
jump?
I think so. Try to get it turned around so I can bring it back up. He took a roe and a puffball.
What color puffball?
Orange.
So the conditions, the perfect conditions like this, you just use a small, bright drift bobber.
Okay, she's going to run again. Exactly. Okay, she's
Walk
probably going to make another run.
Walk
nice
her back.
chromer.
Oh, that's a beauty, dude. Got a nice beach right behind you, Nick. I think she's still a little green.
Yeah, she's not ready yet.
It's a beauty. Brand new native. Look at her. Oh, is that pure? Oh, look at that. That fish is maybe one day from the Pacific Ocean.
You can see I've lightened up my drag and I'm using my fingers to palm the spool. And I never reel when the fish is running. I pump up and then reel down.
Give yourself about a rod's length of line.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and walk her head right up onto the beach,
Okay.
Bill.
That's fine. Get her
She's
right in the
not-
shallows right here.
Let me turn her. Let me get her coming. Here we go.
Oh, look at you! What a beautiful native, about 7 pounds.
Oh yeah.
Brand
This is
new.
dandy.
Perfect fins. Look at that chrome bright.
Okay, let me set my rod carefully down.
Nicholas, beautiful fish.
Oh,
man.
isn't that a beautiful fish?
Gorgeous. She hooked well?
Yeah, she's hooked just right here. Yeah, there we go.
Beautiful. Let's send her on her way, shall we?
Sounds good to me.
Beautiful job, my friend.
Woo!
Yes! Hey man, I'm next.
What we have here is freshly cured steelhead roe and borax, and a puffball, which is very popular in Northern California and Southern Oregon. What a puffball is a painted styrofoam ball which you can easily put onto the back of your hook. You can take it off quickly and you can change colors, and this rig's very effective. Here's the weight I was using. It's just a piece of pencil lead with a hole punched in the top and rubber tubing covering it. And you notice it's kind of small. A lot of people use larger weights because they can feel the bottom, but I like to have the weight just barely touch the bottom and glide along. Use a heavier weight, you can feel bottom easier, but you tend to drag it along the bottom, and not only can't you feel the bites, but it's just makes for a poor presentation.
Your rigging for steelhead is critical, and we're going to take some time to go over it in detail.
Sounds good. We're going to be doing 2 different styles today. Traditional bait casting, which is Bill's specialty, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of spin fishing.
Okay. I think we should talk about how we get our baits down first of all. Let's take a look at our lead riggings. Now, there's many ways you can set up your lead. We like to either with slinkies. This is probably the slipperiest weighting system. Is essentially parachute cord with lead shot inside of it, melted on both ends, clipped onto a swap swivel. And we have those in different sizes, of course, if you're fishing shallower water or deeper water. And then we have the standard issue leads. We like to use rubber covered pencil lead, bare pencil lead for when we get on spots that aren't too snaggy. And notice we have them all cut in different lengths for different water heights and flows. And it's up to you guys to match which ones you want to use. Notice some of it doesn't have rubber coating on it. For when we get in non-snaggy areas, we like to a little more feel. And show them how we use the pliers.
And then you'll notice that there's a hole punched in the top of the lead, and that's what you connect your size 10 swivel to. And it's easy to just pinch the top of the lead, and then you use the hole punch here to punch a hole right in the top.
So slick. So you just take your snap swivel and just put it right through there like we have hooked up right here. I think I have one. We can see how we got the snap swivel right there, right through the hole you had punched in the lead. And we got our main line and our leader right on the snap swivel, and that's a great way if the lead happens to hang up. That little piece of lead right here breaks right off, and we just clip another one on and keep fishing. It's a great weighting system. And you want to make sure when you put your main line and your swivel in there to put it on the swivel proper, not on the clip. That way it allows the lead to swing freely.
It's also very simple to attach a slinky to this swivel setup. You simply open the swivel up and then attach the slinky by the top of the cord, just below where...
Right below where it's melted.
Just like that.
Pretty darn simple, huh? And slinkies are one of the best weighting systems you can use, especially in very snaggy areas, big boulders, any place you might not want to use lead, where lead tends to be a little bit too grabby, a little bit too snaggy. Slinkies are very slick. The parachute cord's very slick, and it'll get you through those spots pretty easy.
The most prominent element of your drift fishing rig is the drift bobber, and if you ask, you will get as many opinions of which is best as you could possibly want.
What we have here is what every drift fisherman needs in his arsenal, the drift bobber. They have several uses. One, as an attractant. You put them on top of your hook to give a little bit more volume, so to speak, to your baits, or all by themselves in places where you can't use baits. So this is what we use in place of them, something bright that's going to attract the steelhead without the use of baits. Drift bobbers are ideal for doing this. What I have here on this side, you notice I have them all categorized. I have the smaller, lighter colored ones over here for low clear water, for conditions where fish are a little tougher. You want something smaller, a little more subtle, like these over here, light pinks, light oranges, reds. In the middle here, when we have a little color in the water and the fish are a little bit more aggressive and you want a bigger profile, I have a little brighter pinks and a little larger bobbers. And over here, when we have dark water, high water, a lot of color, the bright fluorescents, the big spinning bobbers, the big ones with a lot of fluorescent colors in them. It's going to show up easily in the dark water. Now, you'll notice there's different shapes here also. These bobbers over here are plain, like the egg-shaped ones here, the round ones here. They don't do much. All they do is just, there's no imparted action to these at all. They pretty much go down through the water as they are. The ones you see here with little wings on them, these have imparted action. These are going to spin and give a lot more action to your lure and to your baits. When the water's cold and has color, we want to use something with a little bit more imparted action in them, and these spinning bobbers are ideal. Drift bobbers not only add color and profile to your terminal rig, they do two very important things for the drift fisherman. One, they float. These things are made of expanded polystyrene and hollow plastic. They keep your baits and your hooks above the rocks, keeps your hooks sharp. And a steelhead cannot look down. They can look straight at you, they can look up, they can't look down. If you got your bait rolling along the bottom, they're not going to see it. The drift bobber brings it up here where a fish can see it. It keeps your hook sharp, and it keeps the fish, keeps it right in line so they can pick it up.
Most popular of the drift fishing bobbers is the Corky. It is nothing fancy, just a floating ball with some color. With a hole in the center, it is easily run through by the line and set just above the hook. Okies are almost the same thing, but come in the shape of an egg cluster. In some areas, bait is not allowed, and Okies can be your best choice. They come in a variety of colors and sizes, as do the Corkies. Cheaters are another choice, with the only difference being they are egg-shaped. The Spin-N-Glos are another class of drift bobbers that spin, as the name indicates. In some cases, this extra attraction is just enough to trigger a strike. They're strung on the leader as well, but operate best if they're set just above a bead that acts as a bearing. Like the other drift bobbers, they come in a myriad of sizes and colors. The list goes on and on. No doubt you'll find your favorite if you spend any time at all pursuing steelhead. One additional element is added to a majority of the drift fishing rigs you'll see, and this is yarn. It is affixed to the egg loop with a simple overhand knot in most cases. The yarn provides additional attraction, but more importantly, it is believed to get stuck on the steelhead's teeth when they strike.
I'm going to show you how to put the yarn together. Now, we have just your plain drift bobber lure here, right, that we rigged earlier. Now you want to add some yarn. We want to open up that loop in our leader. You want to take a piece of yarn long enough to work with. Give yourself a few inches to work with. Don't make it too short, too hard to tie a knot. You want to tie just a single overhand knot in the yarn, like so. Snug it up tight. Want to make little wings. Take your good little sharp scissors there. Trim. Let's see, we have a cute little wing thing of yarn there, right? Now what are we going to do with this, Nick?
Why don't you tell me, Bill? What are we going to do with it?
Well, so let's say we're going to put some bait in there, okay?
Okay.
When you put bait in the bait loop, the yarn knot keeps the line from cutting through the bait. It gives your bait a little longer life, a few more casts. And the yarn, being sticky as it is, gets caught in the fish's teeth, gives you that extra second of pull, and the fish bites down. He can't spit that out as easy. So it has a couple of uses.
Okay, well that makes sense. Now it's also possible to make a yarn fly, which is just a little bit different, but you can make it in multicolors, and you just simply stack the colors together like so.
For contrast.
Right. And you can make it in up to 4 different colors. You just slide it through. In this situation, you don't tie a knot because what you're going to end up making is something similar to a little glow bug. You can let it hang like this and then trim it off to size depending on how large you'd like it to be. And this is great for situations where you're not allowed to use bait. Now once you dip that into the water, it ends up looking like a nice little fly, and you can make it in all different colors. You can make it as small as an egg, or you can make a larger profile yarn fly for off-color conditions.
Your hook should be the type designated for steelhead and salmon with an upturned eye to allow for tying your egg loop and helping you deliver a solid hook set. Our anglers prefer a rounded style hook whose point extends at least halfway back up the shank. They also like a hook with a long straight tine for greater penetration into the hard mouth of a steelhead. Leaders should be 2 pounds lighter than your main line so that you won't lose your entire rigging if you break off. In general, the shorter the better on your leaders, as you'll feel a strike more easily and have less stretch when you go to set the hook. The clearer the water, the lighter and longer your leaders will have to become to fool steelhead. Your main line should be somewhere in the range of 8 to 14 pound test, depending upon the water conditions. The lower and clearer the water, the lighter the main line and leader. 12-pound main line followed by a 10-pound leader is a standard setup for many rivers. It is also helpful to get a main line that is visible. Steelhead are not known to be shy, and a pink or green line will help you see what is going on with your drift. Sometimes the only indication of a strike you'll get is an unnatural movement of your main line. Drift fishing from a drift boat differs very little than bank fishing. It allows you to fish with a little shorter rod because you're standing taller, and there is no doubt you have access to water you might not otherwise be able to fish. For our purposes, it serves as a way to review a number of things we've gone over in the tape. Put it all together, so to speak.
Nick, I notice you keep your rod fairly high when you're drifting downstream. How come?
Well, that keeps the line out of the water so that the sinker gets to the bottom quickly, and then I'm able to mend the line and control the speed. If you let the current grab the line, if you keep your rod too low, it'll pull your presentation too quickly through the water and it'll pull it up off the bottom.
But the trick is to keep your rod at about a 10 o'clock, right? So it's not too high so you can still get a hook set, but keep it high enough so you keep line out of the water so it doesn't give that push downstream and make for an unnatural presentation, right?
Exactly. Although I do keep it kind of high right when I cast and then drop it down to let that light sinker go down.
Right. Even when you use a heavier lead like I'm using with my level wind today, it's the same thing. I'll want to throw out. And as you say, you want to stay high right away to pull that line up out of the water, gather up your slack until I feel bottom, and just keep it at like 10 o'clock as it goes downstream.
And then you can slowly drop your rod to keep it in touch with the bottom, or start back reeling, or
like in my case,
to extend the drift.
I can just feed like this and extend my drift, or leave my bail open.
You can do the same with this setup, but you've got to be a little bit careful.
It is worth reviewing how to achieve the best drift from shore or in a boat. First, make as short a cast as possible. The shorter the cast, the easier it is to control your drift. The greater your contact with your rig, and the easier it is to set the hook. Second, you want your rig to be down in fishing when it reaches the water you believe the fish to be holding in. This might mean moving up or down a little and changing the angle of your cast. You want to be making your presentation slightly upstream of the prime holding water to allow your rig time to reach the bottom and be moving about a foot above your weight and through the fish strike zone. You will have to experiment depending upon the water speed, depth, and structure to make sure your bait is being presented directly to the fish. You want your presentation to be drag-free. You do this by having the right amount of weight for the conditions, and by keeping your rod up and preventing your surface line from dragging across the water. Ideally, your bait will be moving slightly slower than current and just off the bottom. If it arrives at the steelhead in this position, with the bait below the weight and moving naturally, 90% of the time they will take your offering. Remember to cover all the holding water you have selected. Start above where you think fish might be and work through and past the area. No telling when your judgment may be a little off. Increase the length of your cast until you have thoroughly exhausted what's in front of you, and then move down 4 steps and repeat the process. If the water is murky, make shorter adjustments and move more slowly. Always fish your cast completely out. Even let it hang at the end of your drift for a little while. A steelhead may have followed your presentation and could be trying to catch up with your bait. As your drift finishes, the natural sweeping action of the rig can be what triggers a strike. One final point is to check your rig whenever something out of the ordinary occurs. If you caught on a rock, you want to make sure your hook is sharp and that your line and leader hasn't frayed. Sometimes you can even tell if your bait has been picked up by a fish, and you'll want to rebait and fish the area again.
Got some great structure coming up here, Nick. We've got some depth, about 5-6 feet deep out there with some trees. And you know how steelhead love to hang around the lumber yard. It's a great spot to pick a fish up on. There's some shadow out there. We got depth, we got chop, we got a boulder bottom. Good holding spot. And you got just enough weight on there just to make that bait tick along the bottom every 10 feet or so, right?
Yes.
It is worth saying a little more about water conditions, as they greatly influence where and how you might fish. High, muddy, and cold water makes it about as tough as it can get. In such situations, you have to put your presentation right on the button, near the bottom and in the fish's face. Under such conditions, shallow water is where you have the best chance of hooking fish. Light only penetrates a few feet in murky water, so your presentation will only be effective when it is from 2 to 4 feet deep. In this same depth of water and close to the bank, usually it's a little clearer, and the steelhead prefer this area. Water temperatures will affect your fishing as well. If the water is below 40 degrees, steelhead won't be nearly as active. If you're going to fish, seek out the deeper and less swift holding water. The deeper water may be warmer, and slower water will not require as much energy of the inactive steelhead. 40 to 60 degree water will usually produce your best results. Fish become active and more aggressive as the water temperatures rise. They will head to those classic types of holding water we've described. Above 60 degrees, things start to slow down again. Steelhead have difficulty surviving water temperatures much over 65 degrees. In warm water, they are looking for oxygen, and you have to head for shallow riffles and rapids where turbulence is forcing oxygen into the water. Even if you find steelhead in extremely warm water, they are seldom willing to respond to a presentation.
I'm going to let him catch all the little ones. I'm going to catch a 20-pounder.
I'm extending my drift.
Right about there. Oh, there she blows.
Fish
yeah,
on.
fish on. We got one, baby. Woo! Woohoo! Fish on. You see, the poor guy rowing the boat.
What I did was extended my drift. We were anchored up, and by opening the bail and closing it, I was able to fish a little bit further down than I would have been otherwise, and also keep the presentation near the bottom.
Looks like he grabbed that pretty good, man.
Yeah, he took it hard.
That rod just jerked right down. He really took it well. Or she. Hey, this beach looks familiar. Nice fish, Nick.
Oh, beautiful.
I think it's a racehorse. Even though this fish is very bright, you can see how bright she is, but she's a kelp, which means the fish came right up. She was probably loose, wading downstream, came right up, dumped her eggs, and here she is. Cooked very well right there in the jaw, right in the lower jaw. Took a tiny bait of eggs. Very good. Okay, let's take her out here and hopefully she'll be back next year a little bit bigger, a little brighter. And what's so cool this time of year, man, the third week of March, it's prime time for the natives. So we find all our native steelhead. They start coming in January, you know, and start to build in February, and March is prime time, but they come through these rivers all the way up until May. But right now, the dropping water, we've really done well with our timing.
There are a lot of elements to drift fishing for steelhead, but they shouldn't intimidate you. The rewards far outweigh any investment in time and energy you might put into learning them.
Okay, we get them right here. I got a nice bank right here, Nick. Okay, here you go. Oh boy. Whoa, baby! But a native, they never ever stop fighting. They just fight and they fight and they fight and they fight. Wow! They just don't want to stop, do they? Jeez. Man. I'm not giving this fish any quarter either. I got this rod just torqued. Yeah, baby.
There you have it. Beautiful. Olympic Peninsula
Look
native.
Look at that beautiful buck. Again, I got him on the little orange stay like we've been keying on all day.
Okay.
In this colored water.
Goes.
Da, 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 da. That was my
there
last cast. I got witnesses, man. It's the last cast. Wham! Woo!
It will take some practice, but a great deal of satisfaction can come from accomplishing the task. Unlike trolling or simply bait fishing, it is an active sport that can keep you intrigued. Nick and Bill encourage you to give it a try and take this invitation to find a passion you may never escape.
5 feet on that bank, all the way. You know, Nick, we fished a lot of big rivers so far, but there are a lot of great smaller waters as well, like this one.
Yeah, I really like to fish medium to small size streams because they're so easy to read.
Well, it's so much more defined. You know, the pools aren't as big. And like in this shot here, we've got a nice, small, perfect pool. Like the shallow head in, they're not going to be there. They're not going to be here in the shallow tail. We've got this nice bucket right here in the middle. It's far more defined for someone who's a beginning steelheader. They should start on small waters like this, true?
True, and this is what you call, right in this area, the flat spot, right?
Mm-hmm. These are the flats, right here. You can see how the river's tilted up above, where it's tilted and running fast. They're not going to be there. They're not going to be where it's tilted and running fast after the shallow tail out. Right where the water stops, flattens out, and the water begins to get a little depth. This is where we're going to find our fish. Learning a home river is very important. You need a place you can go to and fish that it's your little security blanket, and learn one section of that river. Take may say a mile stretch of it, learn it when it's high, learn it when it's low, so you can see every rock, every log. There'll be sections of that river that are going to fish well when it's high. There's going to be sections that are going to fish well when it's lower. When you know how each one fishes, you'll say, okay, today the water is at this height. I can go here with this color drift bobber, with these baits, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to score.
Bill, one of the things that really works for me is having a bunch of streamside buddies who I call each evening and see what's going on. That really helps out the catch.
So you got a little network, so to speak. These guys are out hitting the water. They say, hey, Nick, today, man, they're hitting hot pink Corkies with sand shrimp. I was using 10-pound test leaders, and I was fishing hole A. We smoked them. So the next morning, you're there with the right tackle in the right place. Can't beat it.
You sure can't.
Thanks for watching Amato Publications Drift Fishing for Steelhead. I'm Bill Herzog.
And I'm Nick Amato. We'll see you on the river.
Wanna go fishing?
Let's go fishing.
Man, it's a gorgeous day. We're gonna hook up today.
I know you're right.
I'm always right. You know that.
No, I'm always right.
No, I'm always right. No, but you're the man. Because I can't be the man when you're the man, you know.